I have no idea how this happened. And part of it is driven, in my view, by the fact that we reject intellectualism at a very high level. We reject strategic thinking. We reject those who actually can understand and break this down for us so we can understand that. We'll break down a rapper's lyrics in a second. We can break down whether the Dallas Cowboys are better than the Philadelphia Eagles, but nobody's really breaking down the real game, the meaningful game, which is the game of life. And I had to tell her I didn't want to sound arrogant or anything, but I said I'm sorry. I said Mama. I called her. I got a mama. She just passed, but that now Alicia's mama is my mama. And I said I'm sorry, Mama, but um, I said before I married your daughter, I did date women, and I had money, so I could have dated a lot of women if I wanted to. If you got money, it's easy to find women. It's not hard. You can lose money chasing women, but you'll never lose women chasing money. I said, but in my life. There's never been a time where I ever thought or I was afraid that some kid would pop up on my doorstep, 25 years old, and say, "You're my daddy." I always protected my seed because I always knew my worth. I always knew also that loving my children means caring about them, and caring about them means I'm going to be thoughtful and strategic about who I choose. If I choose to have a child with somebody, I'm going to think about that. 17 years old, I get it. When you're a kid, for sure, we make mistakes. You discover sex. It's new, it's exciting. All you're thinking about is what somebody looks like. But you got 45-year-old men still doing the same thing. You got 50-year-old women doing the same thing. And I really encourage you as we talk about investing, and we're going to get to stocks and everything else in a minute, but I really need you to understand that you can't build wealth without infrastructure. What you're missing as a community is infrastructure. Infrastructure means that you have the proper scenario for building wealth. See, wealth gets built like the way you grow plants and flowers. Every mathematical equation that we worked on in my doctoral program to explain how wealth grows, how people become wealthy, all these equations come from biology. They all come from biology. And if you know anything about biology, you know that the ability of a flower to grow is heavily dependent upon the environment within which you're trying to grow that flower. Do you get what I'm saying? Tell me if you get what I'm saying. Right? That literally the flower will not grow. If you put that same, you can take a flower that's growing like crazy in the greenhouse. It's sprouting like crazy in the greenhouse. But take that same damn flower and put that sucker in the desert and watch how quickly that flower dies. Put that flower in Antarctica. Tell me, give me a yes or no. Is that flower going to keep growing in Antarctica the way it grew in the greenhouse? So what you got to understand is that your wealth does not grow for the same reason that flowers doesn't grow. Some of y'all are trying to grow roses in Antarctica. You're trying to grow petunias in the Sahara Desert. And why is that? Well, because the infrastructure is not there. Wealth is so heavily family oriented. I could spend hours breaking down research studies and statistical analysis to explain to you how family and wealth are deeply connected. And when Black people lost our families, when we let go of our values, when we traded in all the values that grandma and granddaddy had about staying married and keeping the family together, when we let that go, we gave away probably $10 trillion in economic potential. We gave away enough money that would literally be our whole reparations package right there. So please understand, if you don't have family, start building it and really make sure that this message gets shared with the people that you care about. Because if you're working against yourself, then you can never reach the goal.